Afternoon. We're going to give it a second while everybody loads. Thanks for joining us on this absolutely gorgeous Sunday afternoon. I don't know how much of this we've communicated because we're obviously still playing everything by ear. But I think that at least through the end of the year, our plan is to continue to hold the awards receptions online, because that way everyone can participate. While our membership tends to mostly be from Maryland, it is not exclusively from Maryland. And we have more than 100 members who live outside the state. So this gives everyone an opportunity to participate in a discussion about you and your art. And then we will host closing receptions where we can invite the public to come and enjoy your work before you take it home with you, if it does not sell. So that is going to be, I think, the plan, at least through the end of the year. We will obviously monitor the situation and see what's recommended by the city of Annapolis and the Anne Arundel County Health Department. But we want everybody to enjoy your work. We want them to do it in a very safe manner. I am Joann Vaughan. I'm the Executive Director of Maryland Federation of Art, and welcome to our awards reception for our fall member show. It is so much fun to see your work. If you are an exhibiting artist in this exhibition that has a real point of view, if you're able to come down to the gallery to see it hanging, it is one of the most abstract and most cohesive exhibitions we've had here in a long time. I apologize because our juror Chanel Compton could not make it this afternoon. Chanel is the executive director of the Banneker-Douglass Museum, which is literally steps from Circle Gallery. It is a museum to preserve the heritage of Maryland's African-American community. And they reopened for the first time last weekend. So I think when Chanel first came on board to jury the exhibition, and like I said, she did an absolutely fabulous job expressing her point of view. She is young, and that's really fun because it shows in this exhibition. I think she had every intention of being able to make this, but I think that probably her workload is just a little bit more than she had counted on at the time. While we're still loading up, I also want to thank those of you who have contributed to Collector's Choice. Collector's Choice, as I think many of you know, is our largest fundraiser. More than 10% of our income comes from this event. And when you are a nonprofit that operates basically on a shoestring, 10% is a lot of money to have to make up, and we can only do it because of your generosity. So thank you so much if you've donated work. If you haven't, don't worry, we will hold this again next year. And we look forward to your support at that time. In the meantime, please share the event with your collectors, with your friends. It's a really fun evening. The way it works is it's an art lottery. People buy a ticket. If you're coming in person, that gets 2 people into the party. If you want to participate virtually, and we have people from California who are participating this year, it gets people onto the Zoom. And everybody's ticket has a number. When your ticket is pulled, you get to select whatever piece of art you have that has not been previously selected. So everybody gets to go home with a really, really lovely piece of artwork, a great party favor, and a great way for people to start a collection. And we then send you a letter with who your newest collector is, so you can touch base. We have some fabulous stories where people have met collectors and then, had people purchase numerous pieces of theirs after Collector's Choice. So I wanted to just plug that. It's the end of the month. It's October 24th. And like I said, we do appreciate your support. Laura, you want to start the PowerPoint? And we will get to the awards. So in our member shows, and I think those of you who have been on these Zooms for the member shows before know that we have a couple that live in St. Louis that used to live in Annapolis, but that very much believe that there should be more 3D work, and 3D work should be more recognized. So they fund and then they select an award in each of our member shows. And this is Rob and Susie Conley. Rob is a doctor with Eli Lilly. He actually has worked on several of the COVID treatments for Lilly. And Lilly has bought work from MFA exhibitions corporately as well in the past, but they fund the award, they select the award. The Conley Award for 3D goes to Elizabeth Kendall for her piece, Duet. This is a lovely all white ceramic piece. It is in pieces and then it pieces together with the two pieces settling into each other. I also want you to know that if you or anyone else that you know has a special affection for a certain medium, we invite them to contact us to see if they would like to fund an award for a specific medium. Like I said, Chanel could not be here, so I want to read her juror statement. Sometimes we do have a juror who chooses to make fewer selections for awards because they want them to be meaningful. So here's Chanel's juror statement. This exhibit is a multimedia celebration of abstracted space and body. There were also selected portraits that drew me in for their sensitivity and mystery, such as Marty by Stacey Joy and Cowboy by Cathy Bennett-Dove. I chose Tub Time by Stacey Joy Levy and Duet by Elizabeth Ann Kendall as awardees. Tub Time is a joyful voyeuristic. The figure is upside down and smiles at you while you're being submerged in an ice bath. I think about Frida Kahlo's What the Water Gave Me, which is about Kahlo's inner thoughts and dreams. Tub Time is also intimate and non-conventional, but in this work, it's about the viewer's relationship with the figure. While looking at this piece, I think, are we in the middle of a funny story, or am I a mirror hanging from the ceiling? Only people you love can watch you bathe, and looking into the eyes of the bather, I feel loved. I chose Duet by Elizabeth Ann Kendall. I admire great ceramicists, their process, their patience, and their commitment. Duet is a perfect title for this work. Looking at this piece is like watching a dance. The two swirls are folding gently into one another, perfect form and shape. Duet is all about movement, and to capture that thought through clay is nothing short of masterful. So Stacey Joy, I know that you are on. I wonder if you would like to speak about your piece, Tub Time.
Yeah, this is actually my son, who, when my husband saw the pictures, is like, I hope he had a bathing suit on, and he did. I did a whole series of water paintings, and over COVID, the pools were closed, there was no access, and so this was the water, and my family has been painted a lot, and he was very, very, he got in the tub for me and posed, and he was laughing his head off, and so was I. So yeah, it was a fun thing to do.
So what draws you to painting water?
I've been a swimmer all my life, and over COVID during the summer, I treaded water with some ladies, socially distanced, and I just started. The new iPhones are waterproof, so I could shoot pictures in the pool, and so I did that. I figured that out after I took these pictures, but I've always loved to swim. I just think if I could live at the beach, I would.
Okay,
So.
I think because we're going to have, we got fewer awards, so we're going to have more time to discuss the artwork. Does anyone else have a question for Stacey? If not, you can hold that thought, and we'll come back to it. So I think, Stacey, we can anticipate seeing more water pictures in the gallery in the future.
I hope so. That would be fabulous. Yeah. No tub pictures. That was kind of the limit of this, but pool pictures. Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't think that Elizabeth is on the call. I know she was leaving for Africa, and I don't know if she has left yet or not, which is too bad because her work was selected by two different jurors for two different awards in the same exhibition, which does occasionally happen. I know Elizabeth fairly well. She works in South County. She lives and works in Deal. She has started an artist studio space down there that I think has, she started it sort of in the end of 19. So obviously they struggled a little bit through 20, but I think is up and running again. She was a, I know there's a word for this and I'm not thinking of it, but she did produce ceramics commercially for a long time. She made teapots when she was putting her kids through school and doing these. So she was a commercial ceramicist. She does have a work hanging at MGM National Harbor in the casino there. And she was an artist in residence at Maryland Hall. And we haven't had her work in the gallery in a long time. So it's very nice to see it there and to see it recognized. With that, because we have an hour and I have such talented artists on the Zoom with me, what I would like to do is open this up. Laura will be able to pull your piece up. So if you would like to speak about your piece, and I would view this sort of as a group discussion around work. I think we all can learn from each other. I would, so for example, I've been at MFA now for almost 13 and a half years. And I would have asked Stacy 13 years ago, how do you paint clear? Now, obviously this isn't clear. It's grays and blues and whites. And, but I think the technique behind painting water, just like the technique behind painting reflection, is really unique. Or during Paint Annapolis, I always talk to the artists who paint the streetlights at night, because streetlights at night interpreted in paint are very interesting. So I think we can just have a conversation with each other about your work. If you want to, like I said, if you simply want to unmute, or you can raise your hand, but we can see who unmutes. And so if you'd like to talk about your work, we really would love to hear from you as you discuss what you have. And if not, I'll start calling on people. So is there somebody who's brave and wants to go first? Okay, Elaine, good for you.
Sorry if you can hear me, about Stacy's painting. I'm not in this show. I absolutely love the fact that you've got him on his head. Just to choose to frame it and do it that way is also extraordinary, because it adds a whole different perspective and angles. And it looks like it was so much fun, from taking the photo, staging it for one thing with your son. I can't even imagine what a doll to do that for you as a parent. That's amazing. And then the way you carried it out is extraordinary. So if you wanted to talk a few more minutes, and I just want to say I love it. So congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. I just look at everything as patterns. And so I wanted to paint water. So what I started doing was shooting my pictures. I've shot tons of reference pictures in the pool and from underwater, depending on whether it was cloudy or super sunny. In the same time that I shot pictures over an hour of the clouds moving, multiple different patterns. And so I just literally blow up an area and search for the pattern and then repeat it. And so, you don't have to paint every little thing, just get the nuances of it. And it's a lot of fun in watercolor, because you put the paint down and then lift some off or spatter it back on. And I just love to do it. So, but thanks. I was going to ask to see your work, because I haven't been in to see the show. So I wanted to see Elaine's painting or her sculpture, whatever she put in, but.
Yeah, I didn't get to do it this time, unfortunately, but thanks. Thank you.
Elaine has worked in our Corporate Connections exhibition. Yes. So if you go online, you can look at that. Kathy.
Yes.
Think about your piece.
Well, my face is blocked out and I don't know how to stop it. Yes.
So what we're going to do is go to the online gallery. And so because you're only showing up as Kathy, can you give Laura your last name?
Leaycraft.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Go. So how did you come up with the inspiration for this?
Well, I've been a photographer for a long time, but I recently had to change what I was doing because I have MS and I can't maneuver as much as I used to. So I started using encaustic on top of my photographs. And this was one of the early pieces. And I'm interested to see if anybody has any feedback, things that they like or things they think might be improved, or just general interest in what people think of it.
Well, I'll jump in here because I also do encaustic, and I think it's so atmospheric. I really love the sense of distance, and I think you've really captured the sort of the feeling of air. I mean, they talk about painting other things, but painting air, you've done a beautiful job of it. I think it's perfect just as it is.
Oh, good, thank you.
So Kathy, where was this taken?
Provincetown out on Cape Cod.
Okay, and Chris, let's pull your piece up and take a look at it.
Okay. I have two actually, but I'll talk about this one because this was sort of a spontaneous. I oftentimes have time trouble when I'm racing deadlines for shows and things, and this I actually had time, and I decided just to play. And you know, encaustic is so versatile that it's easy to get caught up. For me anyway, I kind of had been away from what made me love encaustic to begin with, and that's sort of the magic of it. There is something very different about it because you add heat to it, and then the heat gun or whatever heat source you have becomes a whole different tool of painting in a sense, because the wax melts and it moves and it does things on its own. But that's what I love. That's the most playful aspect of it. So this painting came from just me deciding I was just going to play around, do what I wanted. I'm real interested now in painting on black backgrounds and the contrast between the bright paints and the black. And so that's a lot of what you see is the darkness coming through is just the background itself, and then the vividness of the paints. If you see it closer on the left, there is what's called accretion, where the wax is built up, which is a wonderful, fun thing to also do with encaustic, where you kind of you let the wax cool a little bit, and it's like dry brushing, and you get this wonderful texture. There's just a lot of different parts of encaustic that I love, and I like this just because I remember the joy that I had when I was painting it, and just this feeling of freedom, and you know, that's kind of, I guess, all I have to say about it.
How did you get involved with encaustic? What drew you to that medium?
You know, that was one of the questions I asked, because I was sitting there thinking, like, you know, I had gotten so far away from it, and I took a couple of classes. There was a class at Montpelier, probably 15 years ago, maybe. I mean, we actually used heat lamps to melt the wax, which I can't even imagine. It sounds cumbersome now, but it was, you know, it was just a wonderful class. And encaustic does require some special setup because you have to worry about fumes and you have to have good ventilation. And I used to work in my dining room, which was not really conducive to really setting up a studio. And when we moved to Annapolis, I have a full unfinished basement, so I could really spread out and set up a good venting system and play around. So, you know, Joann, I was asking myself that, like, what do I remember from way back when? And that's part of where I am now, is to try to retrace that and kind of get back to that sense of awe and joy and playfulness. And, you know, I've been doing more realistic landscapes and things, which I like also, because encaustic's very, works well because of building texture and things, but I'd like to get back to much simpler, more spontaneous work.
I got one question. What size is this again?
It's 11 by 14, I believe.
I love the texture that you have there. And that must be like fun to find those kind of happy accidents that happen with encaustic. Is that something that you experience a lot? Like those, oh, this is cool, this is happening.
Exactly. Happy accident would be the underlying.
Yeah. I love things like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
What I think I like about encaustic too is I'm a tactile person. I like to touch things, and I have a very hard time sometimes in shows not touching. So what I like about encaustic too is you can touch it, you can stroke it, you can feel it, and the work kind of invites you to it. Kind of want to when you look at it.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay,
How
David,
big is Cathy's? Sorry.
go ahead,
Cathy?
Stacey.
The previous encaustic, how big was that one?
I think both the ones that are in the show are 11 by 14. That's generally a size. I'm trying to gradually work bigger, but you know, that's kind of where I'm comfortable right now.
No, the one that was not the prior this, but the lady who spoke the first encaustic that came
Oh, that
out.
one. Okay.
Yeah,
Cathy?
I think that's Cathy.
Yeah. I don't know
I
if
think-
she's still around. We'll circle back to the encaustic if we've got time. David Mosher has his hand up, and then John, if you're willing to speak about your work, we'd love to hear from you after David. So
Sure, sounds good.
David, can you unmute? Okay, while we're waiting for him, John, why don't you speak about your work?
Sure, great. Actually, for some reason on Zoom it says John, but I go by Jack. I haven't gone by
Oh,
John.
sorry.
It's probably my fault. I don't care whatever one you want to pull up. I got two in the
You
show.
got two in. Mhm.
Yeah, this one was done. This is like, I think around 20 by 25 by or 24 by or 30 by 30, I guess is the size. I think that's what it is. This is a bridge over the Potomac River. And it was the day after January. So it's January 7th, the day after that uprising that happened. And I just kind of felt this need to go down there, and I wasn't going down there because I wanted to see the thing that was happening or the thing that happened the day before. But I just mentioned that because my mind was kind of in that like DC, what's going on frame, and it was the reason I went down there was because the light was it was so good that day. It was January, so it was a winter day. And something that I've been really interested lately is working with, trying to capture the shadow and the light. And this was one of the first pieces that I did where I started with bridges were my main subject matter. And the way this composition worked out, it really was just a happy accident. I took a bunch of photos that day. And this one was one that caught my eye. Looking through almost like as a framed canvas of the landscape through the bridges was something that was interesting to me, the way the light hit that, and also the way the light hit the bridge. And since then I've gotten to be a little more, I see if there's good light or if there's good shadows and colors. I'm known to just like pull off the side of the road and take some photos to the point where my family is super annoyed of me. Like it's difficult to go anywhere because I'm like, wait, we got to stop. That looks really, really good. So this was one of the first ones to do that. Lately, what I've been doing now is I do a lot more from my photographs. I do a lot more color studies, and I do little digital studies and on the iPad, and then I paint those digital studies with the photo to do final art. So it's kind of like it's just a good process that I've been working in. I find it to be I can modify colors and change things around, compositions and stuff like that in that iPad phase. And then when I go to oil or to acrylics, I can I'll have a better idea of what I'm getting into. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Laura, can you bring up Jack's other piece?
Yeah, this one is of the purple line, which is stalled. I live near Silver Spring, and I go over this bridge all the time. And I was on the other side of this bridge, there was this apartment building with a big brick wall. There's no windows for some reason on that side of the apartment building. But the way the light hit it when the sun was going down, it was just beautiful. So I was inspired by this area, and then I went down into the Purple Line construction and the way the sun was hitting it at that time. And I've been back many times to see, and it just kind of keeps changing every time I go. I've always been interested in construction and the abstract qualities of pieces and put together. And ever since I was like in college, I liked construction. I don't know why. It's just something that interests me.
So this piece is the one that I took a quick, well, I mean, obviously I've seen the work several times. I mean, this is where I work.
Yeah.
But I took a walk around the gallery to sort of refresh my memory on the pieces, because I knew that I was fairly sure the juror was not going to be able to show up. And this show is very abstract, but this caught me, as did the other piece, this one a little bit more, because of the just totally cubist linear nature of the piece. And it's almost as if you built the work, that
Interesting.
it sounds funny. My husband's a lawyer, and he really builds contracts. He doesn't take an abstract, it's like this and this and this and this until he gets what he wants.
Right.
And that's what hit me, the other piece as well, but this piece more because of the sort of the containers. I assume those are containers in the background, but
yeah, those are buildings, containers, just things off in the distance. I believe that's that purple right up against the sky there, the top part of that area. I believe that's Walter Reed, or one of their facilities up on what is that? It's near T.W. Perry. So Brookville Road, I believe is the road that's called. But yeah, the whole building pieces together has always been interesting to me. It's interesting to hear that. It's almost like a puzzle for me. That's kind of the way I approach a lot of this stuff.
no, and one of the things about this exhibition, whether you see it in person or you just see it online, is I think many times, and again, I'm the one that's not an artist. You all obviously know all this, so I'm preaching to the choir. But I think people walk in and they think abstract art is one kind of art. And we have so many different versions of abstract in the gallery right now that it's a real lesson on the variations that come when people don't interpret something literally or realistically. And so these are the sort of exhibitions. For me, it normally happens during art on paper because of all the printmaking, and I don't know that much. When I first started, I knew nothing about prints. And it's very, very interesting to watch somebody who is an art appreciator, but not necessarily well versed in it like you all are, to walk through and be able to recognize that there are different layers and levels to abstract.
Right.
Like there are to everything else.
Right. Some abstract can be pretty representational, and then some can be completely
totally interpretive.
Interpretive. Exactly.
So David, we've been able to get you unmuted, or you were able to get yourself unmuted. Do you want to speak to your piece?
Yes, please. If you would bring that up, we can all look at it. And I'm so pleased to be part of this because there's so many types of media, and to take photography and bring it to this this kind of a show is just marvelous. I'm really excited about that.
Well, and we have one other thing for you to be excited about, because your piece is sold.
Oh, wow.
So that Laura just sent me a message. It just sold. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
But obviously this is something very different. Can you speak to us about the inspiration for this piece?
Yes, the inspiration goes back to the COVID-19 lockdown, and feeling like that we were all little isolated pods of life in a very desolate land. And this is my interpretation of that. We have a box of clouds, very colorful, full of life, floating above a desolate landscape. My inspiration is always to create something that isn't there, something that's in my mind, a feeling, to recreate a feeling. And And here, I'm trying to recreate the surrealist approach of shock and surprise of the bourgeois, that we are seeing something. It's completely believable that it's something, but we know that it can't be anything, that can't exist, but it does exist, but there it is. And so these two elements seem to me to speak to that isolation and complete surprise and wonder, really, of what's going on. I want to have a dialogue with a viewer and get them thinking about, why did someone make this?
No, and I think that's very, of the pieces in the exhibition that are not abstract, and obviously this is not realistic, this is obviously interpretational. There is a backstory to most of the work. So a lot of the photography, there's a couple of wonderful portraits, and what you're looking at is well, what's the backstory in this picture? And I've seen jurors before, who are drawn to pieces that they're like, well, there's a story to this. I may not know what it is, but I'd like to know more about it. And so I think that's very true with this piece, and I think it's very true with, like I said, a lot of pieces in the work in the exhibition.
Mm-hmm. That's why I'm excited. That's why I'm excited to be part of this, because there's so many different interpretations and so many different people showing how they see the world or how they see, and it's a lot of fun.
Good. Well, we're glad that you were willing to share your work with us.
Thank you.
Is there
Thank
anybody else that would care to share their thoughts about their work? Is the Ugianskys. So
I can talk about
great.
mine.
Thanks,
There's two pieces, and one is similar or part of the other. There they are. I work in metal, and I like to make things that look like they're almost impossible, or I like people to ask the question how they do that, which a lot of people do for one like this, because that top part it's actually a kinetic piece, interactive kinetic, so you can turn it. The bottom part of that is a new shape that I am in love with right now. It's a triangular bipyramid, but in this case, two sides are missing. The side that's in front and another side that's in the back. And I just think that shape is really great. And that's the shape of the other piece that's in the show. That's just one of those triangular bipyramids with two sides missing. And I have it sitting, the other one is sitting on a board, on a base. Then you can turn it whatever way you want to look at it. I just love it. I love doing it. I love doing shiny things. I polish some of them. In this case, this balancing act, just one side of the cube is polished, so it shows a reflection of the triangular bipyramid below it. Anybody have any comments or questions?
How did you get involved with metal?
Well, my training is I'm a metallurgical engineer to start, but my education or all the work that I've done was on corrosion of metals. So it was mostly stress corrosion of aluminum, high strength aluminum alloys, the stuff airplanes are made from. But then I've been traveling with Marilyn here beside me for 40, 50 years, going to museums and galleries. And I used to do photography a long time ago, but I thought for a long time that if I ever started doing something myself, artistic, it should be metal sculpture because of my metallurgical background. And I started in a class at Anne Arundel Community College in 2014 in January. at Maryland had told me I should do that because they have really good studio and really good equipment. And I saw some of the things in the student shows and saw that some things were very professional and decided I should do it. And I've been taking the same course over and over since then because they have great studios. And so they have, 3 plasma cutters and about 4 or 5 welders and all kinds of other equipment. And all you have to do is sign up for the class and you get to use it, and you get help from the professors also.
Who are excellent.
Who are really good. Wilfredo Valadares is he's head now of the whole department, at least temporarily. He took over the head of the department like the day that COVID hit, then the day that they shut down the school, and he was then in charge of putting together all their Zoom classes, et cetera, and everything else. And there was no sculpture. I couldn't do any sculpture for about a year because there was no on-campus classes that through a major part of COVID. So that's how I got involved in it, and then I had evolved into something. I realized from the start that I really like geometric shapes, and that's what I should focus on. And it's become more and more of that, and now it's such that I call things, my pieces, an exploration of solid geometry dash whatever it's called then too, because that's what I'm really doing. And I go from one shape to another, and I've been hitting on this triangular bipyramid a lot lately, and making them the different sizes and with parts missing. I'm making one now that's like each side of that triangle is 19 inches instead of 3 or 4 inches, and it's going to be in my hillside of our house with some other pieces attached to it. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work also, and that's a good way to lose weight.
Well, it's wonderful when you can find something that you can put effort into, but that brings not only you joy, but brings joy to everybody else in the community as well. People always look at your work when they come in, because again, it is like how does that happen? And it's not just how does it happen balance wise, because people understand there's a structure in there, but it's also getting your planes as flat and as shiny as you do, which I think everybody recognizes is not easy.
Yeah, I was one of the early pieces I made, like almost the first one. When I finished it, Wilfredo, who was the head of sculpture at that point, complimented me by saying it was very professional looking, and I was thrilled to hear that. And I think the second piece I did got into the show that MFA did with University of Maryland, and I was thrilled that my second ever piece was on a big show. So it's been a fun thing, and I think I put something in almost every show that MFA has that where I can put it in. I don't do street painting. I don't do a lot of things, but anything I can put sculpture in, I do.
That's great.
I think I just entered 2 pieces into the Small Wonders show.
Great. I hope I'll be able to see them in the gallery.
Yeah.
So Kristin Hill is next to speak about Creek Bank Symphony.
Good afternoon, and Joann, thank you for everything you and MFA do. I'm from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and one of those people where it's a little harder to get to you, so I do appreciate the virtual. The opportunity to show our art and to see other people's art outside of the more structured gallery world is quite nice. So thank you for everything that all of you do at MFA. My career has been as an aviation artist for more than 40 years, and that's a very studio structured type of painting. It's only been in the last few years that I've taken time to do other paintings, and this would be a plein air type of painting, although because of winter, I did end up doing most of the work in the studio. We have a wonderful creek near my home, just below our property, and I took a walk there after a nice winter snowstorm and was able to see and enjoy the water moving through the creek and look at the abstractions that were happening there at the same time that you're looking at all of the realism. And so what you're seeing in this is the water on the lower portion, the foreground, the rocks, and then the snow in the bank, a little bit of the more distant snow. And above that would be two pine trees that are not included in the composition, but are brought down into the water reflections. And all of this really comes together for me because I've enjoyed for many years going to Symphony and sitting in the very top balcony and just being able to watch all of the musicians play in the orchestra and see them play as each of those sounds comes forth, and then to hear the classical and even more contemporary music played by them. But all of those elements, as time goes on, from being a visual artist, I merge more and more of the audio art that is expressive in a very different way, in a very abstract way. We aren't hearing fire engine bells clanging and all sorts of different things like that. We're hearing abstraction in the music. So for me, this piece is really the parallel of those abstractions, and every element that's there, whether it's the larger, broader pieces or down into the more detail, is similar to the music that we hear in a very beautifully composed piece of music. And usually when I'm listening to symphony, it's classical music. I actually ended up doing this piece twice. This is the first one, and I did basically a play it again to see what would happen the next time through. So I have a second piece that I simplified things. Instead of having the finer sort of sparkly details, there's a different sort of movement sound that comes in to the second piece, although it's very similar. Any questions?
So Kristin, we have a question of what is an aviation artist?
Go back to the first sentence. Okay. For me, as aviation artists do different things. For me, all of my career has been painting aircraft in their environment. It's been oil paintings. I was educated fine arts at Mary Washington College, now Mary Washington University, which is liberal arts with a fine arts major. And I applied that out of college to focusing on the genre of aviation art. I grew up in an aviation family. So my first flight was at 2 months of age. I was in the skies and seeing those beautiful skies all my life and around the airplanes. So I merged out of college my love for art with the aviation, and actually found more fascination than I bargained for. The people are fabulous in the aviation world that I touched. I exhibited my paintings at Oshkosh, Wisconsin for 40 years. And 40 years consecutively, met an extraordinary group of variety of people. My paintings have been for possibly manufacturers, Falcon Jet, Gulfstream. They might have been commissions that were given to somebody like Evergreen Shipping. The Rolls-Royce commissioned me in more recent years to do the retirement painting for the chairman of Rolls-Royce, Sir Ralph Robbins, chairman of all of Rolls-Royce. And other paintings would have been private commissions, and also paintings of my choice, whether it be Golden Age, aviation, the antiques, the barnstormers, the fascination of that. I'm also part of the Air Force Art Program and have been in part of the Air Force Art Program since 1980, have 13 paintings in the Pentagon, and have flown in a variety, very large variety of aircraft, from actually hang gliding when I was younger and more agile, to a U-2 high altitude flight at 70,000 feet.
Wow, that's wonderful. Okay, Carey Crane, I think is next.
Hello, I think you can see the video. Thank you, Joann, so much for the opportunity to show, and great organization that MFA is. So let's pull it up. There we are. So I'm really
bigger. We're gonna have to figure out a way to make these bigger. So
yeah, there's a lot going on.
There you go.
there you go, Laura. Good.
This is Dropping Acorns. I'm really glad this is in the fall show, because I did this about 2 years ago this time of year. I like to work outdoors when I can, and this painting was actually done under an oak tree in our yard with dropping acorns. And what I like the literal aspect of this, because I actually used a charcoal pencil and drew the shadow patterns from the oak leaves and then worked back into that. So it's all on raw canvas initially and drawn and then painted in, lots of staining. I use a surfactant, sometimes a little Dawn soap, to make the acrylic paint bleed into the canvas. And then I also have the harder edged elements. And that's the basics.
So everything we see of yours is always abstract. It's big. It's commands the room. You typically get the good wall, as people call it, because it's the wall that hosts your work. I don't know if everybody saw, Carey did a Will Talk with Will Scott, who interviews different artists twice a month, where people can really learn more about their work. And it was very interesting when I'd seen Carey's work in the gallery, and then he is the director of, I may not have the title correct, but he's the director of exhibits at the Calvert Marine Museum down in Solomon's Island, and contacted me about doing an exhibition down there. And of course, I thought exhibits were like art exhibits. And no, these are like all kinds of interpretive exhibits about both the history in Calvert County, as well as the natural history of Calvert County. And I thought, oh no, this is like big time exhibits, like museums have. So it's been fascinating to work with you both as an artist and then really as a museum exhibitor, and thinking about, because I think when you talk about your work here, your job is always, how is the public going to interpret this? And so it's fascinating to hear the story behind this, because that's one of the things we try to do when people come in, when they stop in front of a piece, is say, well, did you know this? And it brings more interest to the observer when they know more about the work. So thanks for sharing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to say one more thing about this. And it looks good in the gallery. There are a lot of metallics and things that you can't really see. It does, the photo flattens it out a bit. But one thing I like about this work is I know how to overwork a painting. And this was, every once in a while I'll do one that's really a one-off, or I do most of the work in an afternoon. And this is one of those. I think it has for me, a fairly light touch, and it is not overworked.
What size is it?
Pardon? Oh, it's
Size.
Yes, it is on there. I think it's about 30 by 40. There it is. Yeah, 41 by 30.
Which in our experience is a fairly small Carey Crane. His work tends to be pretty big, which is fun to have different sizes in the gallery. Makes the viewer's appreciation of the work easier when they can stop in front of different pieces. And that is one thing I think that Sharon Arsenault and David Diaz, who hang our exhibitions, are absolutely excellent at. Is, membership is difficult in that it's multimedia. And this one Sharon's on, I don't know, she may be willing to say, but may have been somewhat easier, because again, there tend to be more abstracts in this. But sometimes when you have a lot of different media and a lot of different subjects and a lot of different inspirations, it can be hard to have the exhibition make sense to the person that walks in off the street, because it has to visually make sense to them, or it just looks like a bunch of art. And it needs to be something that you can walk in and sort of be led through, so that the visitor can understand and appreciate the exhibition in total, as well as the individual works together. And that is one of the things I think that I would say that we are good at. We are only good at it because Sharon and David are so good at it. But because you do come in and you go around and there's little nooks and crannies, it's not just a linear square box. It adds to the viewer's appreciation when we have smaller work like Kelsey's and larger work like Carey's and everything in between. So they begin to play off each other. It's kind of fun. So Glenn Strawn has offered to sort of close us out this evening. So Glenn, let's find your photograph.
Here.
Great. So this is a piece that I think, like I said, there's a lot of work in this show that is not abstract, but that there's a story behind. It's like, tell me more about this. So what can you tell us about this?
My first trip after, well, we're still during COVID. So it was my first trip 3 months ago. And we decided we'd do Arizona and New Mexico. And I was just amazed by the light that you saw in Santa Fe. And, you know, every day I would, at a certain time, I would walk around and try to find the same light. In the previous show just before this, you picked another one of my series from Santa Fe. And I've been really fortunate. I've submitted both pictures into shows and they've been selected. And, you know, for me, my backstory is that my father bought me a Polaroid camera when I was 9 years old. And he only bought one pack of film from 47th Street Photo a week. And so that gave you, I believe, 10 pictures, maybe 8. And he said, don't waste any of your pictures. You know, don't just mishmash your pictures. So I go looking for stuff, you know, to take. I don't just, you know, you can take 1 million pictures with an electronic camera. And so I just found this, you know, and it's quite ephemeral. You know, 5 minutes later, the shadow was gone. And even when I tried going back the next day to find the same picture, things were different. So anyway, I just, I do a mishmash of images when I see them. And my muse is that I lived right across from Gibson Island. And so I did a whole series of sunrises and sunsets during 1 year. So, but anyway, I just love the colors that are here.
It's gorgeous. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions? Again, I think it sort of is what's behind the window and what's up the stairs and where are the stairs leading, because they don't appear to be leading anywhere. And so from the viewer's perspective, you have the great lines and the great shadows, but you also have a sense of mystery about this place. You know, why was it important enough to photograph, for example? So I think that's part of the fun viewer.
If I may make a comment. Yes, I like the internal angles that all lead me to the center of the image. So you're leading my eye beautifully and you're creating all these triangles. And I like that it's not the whole stairway and it's not the whole wall. It's not the whole of anything, but they all come together to make a whole. It's almost like the gentleman's 3D sculpture earlier, looked at from the corner one of those cubes. You've created a cube out of 1, 2, 3, 4 walls. I think that's very cool.
Thank you very much.
Really, it's very lively.
Well, I try to keep these things at an hour. I do want to say how much I appreciate you all being willing to share your art with us. We know that there's a lot of different places you can look to exhibit. We try to bring to Annapolis something that is very different than another gallery experience in Annapolis. And I think that we have worked very hard to sort of, David Diaz about 10 years ago said he wanted us to be this little gallery that could be in Soho, but isn't. Most work in Annapolis is commercial, and that means it's landscapes and boats. And we understand that, not that we have anything against landscapes and boats. We really enjoy landscapes and boats, but it's really fun to have a show like this that people in Annapolis wouldn't get to see. They could go to Baltimore and see it. They could go to DC and see it. But one of the real community privileges we have is that we're open 360 days a week for free. We're very close to some parts of Annapolis that don't have the money to take their children into DC or into Baltimore. And so we do get a lot of kids who come in and enjoy the work. We get some older people who come in and enjoy the work. We get people in strollers. I tell people we are wheelchair and stroller accessible who come in and enjoy the work. And so I know the work that you all put in on this, and I am so privileged to feel that you're willing to share it with MFA. And thank you everybody for your time and your comments and your thoughts today. I think we have a lot to learn from each other. I always learn something every single time I do one of these virtual award receptions. My background's not art. I know a whole lot more than I did 14 years ago. And I just want to express to you how much we appreciate the artists who exhibit with us.
We really appreciate you and MFA for all that you've done to help artists like me and all the rest of us to be able to show our work.
Well, I think it's a mutually symbiotic relationship, which is great. I hope you'll put, I think it's Saturday, October 16th on your calendar. That will be the closing reception. It's whatever that Saturday is, yes. And you can, it'll be the first in-person reception we've had in the gallery. We will see how it goes, keep our fingers crossed. And I look forward to seeing you all masked, but in person, because as wonderful as some of this virtual stuff is, and we've learned a lot. We've learned a whole lot about reaching audiences that we could never have reached before. And I think that Kristin's comment I really appreciated. We have artists from across the country who exhibit with us that now can engage with us because of some of these virtual platforms. But it's also wonderful to welcome you to the gallery in person. So I will not be here. I will be at my husband's 50th high school reunion, but other MFA staff will be. And I'm much, much younger, by the way, than he is, but much, much younger. So, so anyway, look forward to seeing you all in the gallery again. And thanks for giving us such great work for such a great show.
Thank you, Joann.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joann, everyone.
Thanks so much, Joann.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joann. Everybody.